All right, first off, just introduce yourselves to the audience and tell a little bit about what you do in the industry.
Okay, I'm John Binkowski. I have a lurid and weird past. Worked for SeaWorld back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, and started my own company called Renaissance Entertainment that's been around for 25 years. I'm old. And was involved in the infamous Hard Rock Park. I was one of the... Those who got a chance to see it, actually, it looked good. We financially tanked, but it looked great. And also, when I turned 50, I got lucky. But when I turned 50, I really wanted to produce a movie, a feature film, because I'm in your business, I've never done anything longer than 20 minutes in my life, including my wife. And so I wanted to have the experience of doing something longer than 20 minutes. Okay, moving on.
This is the late show.
My name is Keim. I am a digital media designer and art director. I'm a freelancer for the Orlando theme park industry. A lot of people here know me through Halloween Horror Nights as basically artist and illustrator for Legendary Truth, the Collective, which was our interactive, at the time, RFID in-game, at-home gameplay. I also work for, I do stuff for Nickelodeon, I do things for Busch Gardens. I am known for a website called Haunted Dimensions, which is what got me in the business. 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to build a paper model of Disney's Haunted Mansions, because I know, like a lot of you guys, I'm a huge fan, huge theme park fan. Built the models, I put them online for free, and long story short, that's what got me my first job with TJ Manarino working at Halloween Horror Nights. And so it went from a passion and a hobby to actually doing things like building scale models of all of Diagon Alley, and Simpsons, and a lot of the projects we did for art and design and for Universal Creative. So it's been a wild ride for the last 10 years. And thank you all for being here, by the way. It's awesome.
Hi, I'm Chris Orr. I'm a senior technical director for the Walt Disney Company. And my job is basically to receive information from the designers and reply with, "You want to do what?" It's part of my job to help them figure out how to realize that vision and that dream. And being at Disney, I've had the opportunity to work on a lot of different projects. We are pretty worldwide, so we get to visit a lot of places like Papenburg, Germany, and Podunk, Washington, literally. But being part of Disney, been able to work on the dream and the fantasy, and most recently, worked on the Festival of Fantasy Parade. And yes, I do know how the dragon breathes fire.
My name is Jeff Hornick. I'm the Regional Director of Design Engineering for SeaWorld and Busch Gardens. So I'm the engineer on this panel. I started out at Busch Gardens about 12 years ago. I started out as a ride operator at Kumba, then Shikra, and then I've worked my way up in the engineering department. I've worked as project manager on a number of attractions at Busch Gardens. I've worked on Falcon's Fury, Cheetah Hunt, the Animal Care Center, and a number of others out there. So now I'm doing that type of position, not only for Busch Gardens, but the SeaWorld Park, so all of our 5 parks here in Florida.
Hello everybody, I'm Josh Siniscalco. I started at Universal in 1999, doing the only thing you could do at age 16 acting-wise, which was Jaws and King Kong. And then went on to be a great movie ride tour guide and was friends with Goofy and all that good stuff. From then went to college, came back to Universal, got Poseidon's Fury, and then from there, a lot of fun stuff. I'm a fan just like you guys, so to me all this stuff's like a backstage access. Doing the Usher thing for Halloween Horror Nights is where I met Ray. I'm Sean so that clap is for Ray. But he, of course, you probably know he was the one who built the big model that was on the website, the paper model that the theater and all that they went through, and worked with this lovely lady a few times in the PB&J shows that Brandon Roberts runs. It's like Mr. Bean type humor, and I do things for 25 minutes. Or a makeup show.
I'm Melissa Mason Braillard. I am so happy to be here. I'm usually sitting in the seats like you guys, watching every single year, so I'm happy to be up here with everyone up here as well. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications at Orlando Shakespeare Theater. I have been with Orlando Shakespeare for 10 seasons. I'll be starting my 11th season in September 2015. And I've had lots of different roles with the company. I started actually as a marketing acting intern and was the marketing manager, the company manager, and the director of marketing. This will be my 5th season doing that. I'm also an actor. I've done more than 20 productions with Orlando Shakespeare Theater and will be directing my first show with them next season. And I've also acted in many of the theme parks around town. So I'm very happy to be here.
Just like last session, we will take questions from the audience, but first I want to start off by asking each of our panelists here. 2014 was a big year for theme parks in Orlando. If you can talk about some of the big projects you worked on last year that guests are able to enjoy and experience today.
You have a microphone.
This is going to be so embarrassing.
Make up something. Remember we talked about.
Oh, I know. I was still in the past, and so I was still thinking about what I just said. What was the question?
What are some of the big projects you worked on last year that guests were able to enjoy?
Now, since I don't work at a theme park currently, can I talk about what I've been doing?
Yes, please do.
All right, so this year at Orlando Shakespeare Theater, we had our best season ticket sales-wise that we've ever had at the theater, which I'm super We started off this season with a little ditty called Les Miserables, and we ended up selling out most of the shows within 2 weeks of the show starting its run. Most of that, honestly, I credit to a flash mob that we did at the mall at Millennia that had, as of right now, has more than 750,000 views on YouTube. And when we pulled data about how many people actually saw it when it was picked up with by the Today Show, CBS, ABC, etc., more than 4 million people had seen it, and that was all across the country in Australia, New Zealand, Alaska, etc. So that was pretty cool that we did. Yeah, I mean, it was fine. And my team put that together with, of course, the help of our production staff. It was a huge joint effort that the entire theater worked on, and we were super proud of that. But it really got us off on a great start. So we have exceeded our ticket sales goals on every single production, except for one. We were just a little bit under, and I'm very happy to say that.
Yeah, there's a good answer for this involving your hubby, who directed me. We opened Beetle the Bard this year and all that at Harry Potter. I don't know who they're pointing at because he wasn't here tonight, but no, that was fun. And once again, another backstage view of how it all works. We saw the buildings brand new looking, and then the next day they're splattering paint. You're like, oh, is that going to look good? And it's perfect. And the dude sitting next to him, I know had a lot to do with that as well. But yeah, Beetle the Bard, that's a beautiful show if you haven't seen it yet. I think it's on YouTube in New Zealand, so I did it too.
Last year, we opened up Pantopia and Falcon's Fury at Busch Gardens. I was the project manager for that, and actually a number of freelancers here helped out with that. So I know Joe was here, Joe Nuggs, and Melody Medini in the back right there. Instrumental in helping develop that project. That project was a lot of fun for us because if any of you have been to Busch Gardens before, you know that all of the design is really based on actual locations in Africa. So you've got Nairobi, Egypt, but for Pantopia, we wanted to develop a realm of its own, with its own identity, its own characters, and be able to create that that backstory behind it is not something that we are used to doing at that park. So it was a lot of fun to bring in a bunch of really cool colors, bring in some great creative individuals to come up with the backstories for all of our buildings. We've got some great shopping destinations, great culinary destinations. We really enhanced what was formerly known as Timbuktu, which is very drab, boring, and it looked like real Timbuktu. But Pantopia is lots of fun, very vibrant, very dynamic. And right in the middle of Pantopia is Falcon's Fury. So who's been on Falcon's Fury before?
Amazing ride.
That was pretty good. Who does not want to ride Falcon's Fury? That's usually it. I'll tell you right now. So I've been on that ride probably 40 or 50 times, and it is a lot of fun. Anybody who's been on it, it looks really scary, really intimidating, but when you get off that ride, everybody has a smile on their face, and they get right back in line again. So it's a lot of fun. So 335 feet tall, taller than the Statue of Liberty, and when you get up to the top, we actually rotate your seats, and we hold you up there for an unknown amount of time. You never know when you're going to drop. So you can see the Tampa Bay area, you can see your impending drop, then we release you, drop you 60 miles per hour back down to the ground. It's a rush unlike anything out there. So that was a really fun project to work on, and you know, a great part about our job is being able to see the guests when they get off that ride and see what kind of smiles they have on their faces. So that was a great addition to the Busch Gardens last year.
As I kind of alluded to before, we got to work on the Festival of Fantasy Parade, and that it helped us to kind of complete the opening of Fantasyland. One of the things that goes into the development of a parade is how does it tie into the story? And with Fantasyland expanding, they wanted to make sure that they had elements of that park and that part of the land. So we needed to have princesses, and we needed to have festival type atmospheres. A lot of the times when we develop a show, we overdevelop it. So we develop 14 floats. We know that we're probably only going to end up with about 9, maybe 10. And we did that on that parade. And so for me, some of the things that I'm proudest of is what we developed and is still waiting to be revealed. There are things, there are ideas that we want to bring. Dumbo had a very heavy feature in that parade, and so we have just waiting for it. Our next project is to bring the Dumbo story back to the Magic Kingdom and some of the other things. So for our development, many times it takes a long time. That parade was in development for almost 5 years. There are people in the audience who worked on preliminary images. One person who needs a great deal of congratulations and accolades is Lon Smart. Hopefully that artwork went for a high number so we can benefit this cause. And so that inspirational art that you see there involves many of the pieces that you can see some of the things that are in the parade and perhaps some of the things that didn't quite make it.
Chris builds the magic.
We have engineers, and we have producers, and we have people who are thinking forward for those projects. And that dragon, Maleficent, was actually going to be built by the Creature Technology Company at one point. So Walking with Dinosaurs. So we had engaged them almost 4.5 years ago. And at a certain point, they decided that they would rather work on the King Kong puppet, and they passed on Maleficent's dragon. So we contacted Michael Curry and said, can you build a dragon? Well, show me a drawing. We showed him one drawing, and he built that dragon from that one illustration.
Wow.
Then somebody said, and this is my you want to do what moment, we needed to breathe fire. Oh, on Main Street? Yes. And we want Prince Philip to stand in front of it. Okay. So part of the exploration is, how do you do that? How do you even just do that? Not even whether or not you can do it in front of people or even near other guests. How do you do it? So we explored a lot of different things. We tried propane, we tried wax, we tried gasoline just to see what would happen. We finally came up with a product called Isopar, and it's basically paraffinated alcohol. And then basically thought up a way to ignite it without using a spark. So you know on your gas grill when you hit that button and there's a little spark in there and the propane ignites? We can't do that because that interferes with radio signals. So we used hot surface ignition. So a little secret to you, if you're there watching the parade, look up into the dragon's mouth and you'll see 3 glowing rods. And that's how we do it.
I work in art and design at Creative, or at Universal as freelance, and it's mostly for Halloween Horror Nights and their games, which I've been doing it. This will be my 10th Halloween Horror Nights this year. But I also work for Universal Creative, and I'm a dimensional designer for them, building scale models of all of the attractions and things that are happening in the future. So a lot of what I worked on in 2014 I'm not allowed to talk about. There are some hints already out there of what I might have been working on, but Diagon Alley is something I'm allowed to say, and so even though it's a little bit, earlier than 2014, one of the most amazing things I did was I was one of the scale model builders of Diagon in its early concept stage. So I built Diagon in, a 10-foot by 10-foot and by a 40-foot by 40-foot with different scales and a 1-inch scale model of the Gringotts ride. And I got to work with people like Alan Gilmore, the art director of the movies. And you guys, if you've been to forums before, he was a panelist. And Bryn Court, who was the master sculptor of all the Potter movies. I got to spend a year at a soundstage with him, carving out some things for other projects that we're working on. So 2014 was an amazing year to get, I got a little taste of every interesting thing going on at Universal right now, so it was very cool.
I did not do anything in Central Florida in 2014, including my wife, yes. But I did work in China, and in China, that's when things opened up. Some of you came to me and said they had actually been there. There's a company called Chimlong or Chimlong, however you say it, and they are probably, in my opinion, other than Disney, who's coming into Shanghai, the most interesting, creative ones to watch in China. And I had the pleasure of being the Arm Waver creative director for 5 attractions for them. They opened, and they are in LA right now, accepting their congratulations from the Thea Awards for tomorrow for that. And they asked me, Mr. John, could you please come to Los Angeles? And I said, no, I got something else going on here. So, and I promised my daughter I would take her to Universal one day and then Disney the next day because it's spring break. So I was like, I've seen enough of you guys. You guys enjoy your award, and I'll see you guys later. But that's what I did. One quick little story, in telling just, concepts and stuff like that. One of the big hits was this big lagoon show we did. It's loud and tasteless. It's huge. It's Chinese. We delivered like 15 concepts to this guy. He's about my age, so I'm like, Mr. Suit, make up your mind. And we give this idea. My favorite idea was a show generally called Splash. I know Mr. Kutash did a show in Las Vegas called Splash, but we called it Splash. And what it was a big lagoon show, and everything was water. The costumes were water, the sets were water, the fountains were water, and everything was water. And I went to Google Translate, and I made this PowerPoint presentation. It was going to be awesome. And I made this symbol, and it said Splash, and I looked it up, and it's this Chinese symbol, and it says Splash. And this little girl comes up to me, translator, right before the meeting, and I got it all set up, and she goes, oh, Mr. John, I think you might want to change the name of that symbol. I said, well, does that say Splash? She goes, yeah, well, it kind of means douche. So I'm telling you, the guy was walking down, the chairman was walking down, ready to meet, and what do you do if you're a creative guy? What do you do? One of two things. You either change the symbol, or you add vinegar to the whole damn show. Anyway, so that was not the concept that was picked, but what they did was really good. But anyways, China is a challenge. And I know you guys are worried about me, but I am working for Disney on Shanghai. And we have the pleasure of being involved in one of their attractions there, so I'll be there for 6 months. Anyways, that's it. Okay, next question.
Open it up to you guys. If anyone has a question, just raise your hand. Pick you out here. Anyone with a question? Right there, center.
Yeah.
So with properties like Frozen and The Walking Dead that companies see are very lucrative and stuff like that, but they're being very over, maybe saturated, I guess. What sort of processes do you go to try to keep it fresh without just hitting let it go 20 million times?
I'll tell a story related to the Festival of Fantasy, because that's the only thing I've ever done. But essentially, Frozen happened, and quite a juggernaut, and has had legs for quite a long time. We had already developed the Princess float, the opening float of the parade, and the back of the float. And again, here's some backstory. Briar Rose was actually on the back of the float because we got that dragon kind of coming at us down the street a little bit later. So Sleeping Beauty used to stand where Anna and Elsa stand. 4 weeks before the parade opened, marketing said, you have to have Frozen in the show. So we had to dismantle that portion of the float, put some things in the storage, and put Frozen on it. That portion of the parade is still the most videoed of all of the elements in that parade. Just that brief moment. So I don't know what we necessarily are doing to keep it fresh and continuing it. There are other Frozen assets in development right now, and they are still receiving a very popular response. So I don't know that we have an answer as to how we keep it going, but we do. And for the other properties, there was another, The Walking Dead and some of the other, we don't do
No, the only other thing I just wanted to add is that we're working on an intellectual property for our friends at Disney, and to their credit, they came to us and said, look, we have this intellectual property, but we don't want to just duplicate what the movie was, but we want it to be what would the next story be. And I say that also to Universal. So in that regard, they try to keep it fresh themselves by basically coming to third parties like us or to their employees and say, take it the next level. What would happen if, what would happen if? And I think that's where you get the really interesting products, like with Harry Potter and things like that. They're not recreating the movie, they're taking it one step further, which I think is very cool.
Next question. Oh, sorry, I didn't even
I'm just a grunt who just does what he's told. So, they do keep it fresh, but it's not my doing.
All right. I'll actually ask a question here. Because Josh, you alluded to a little bit what you were working at when you first started in the theme park industry. And I'm curious with everyone here, where did y'all first start out in the theme park industry? Did you start out working attractions, or did you go right into designing? Just talk a little bit about your history.
My background is musical theater. So I have my BA in theater and my MFA in musical theater at UCF, from UCF, and I worked at my major theme park performing has been with the Hoop-de-Doo Review over there. So, which was one of the most exciting times that I've spent. But I started as an acting intern at Orlando Shakespeare Theater, and I worked in community theaters in Seattle before I moved to Orlando. Yeah, and that's where I really found the passion for what I was doing, and I'm so blessed that I still get to talk about what I love to do every single day, that I found a career in the arts.
I started out at Jaws and King Kong. That was the deal. As far as where I started theme park wise, I started at Jaws, but I was an annual pass holder and wanted to be in horror makeup, and now get to work with some of the same actors that were in the show back when I was a little fella trying to get picked and dress in drag so I can be the girl picked for the show. It worked out 5 times. It's a good time. from there, one of the random things I did, if you look at any print ads for Burger King, I wasn't in the commercials. That was a stunt guy, but anything with the guy holding the burgers or the creepy mask, that's this hand right here, holding a computer-generated hamburger. That's my most random thing that I've done since the beginning.
So I talked a little bit about my history in the intro, but I'll elaborate a little bit more. I grew up in the Central Florida, Tampa area, so I've always loved theme parks. My parents always took me to Universal, Disney, Busch Gardens, all of them. So I knew I wanted to work in a theme park, so naturally when I graduated high school, I decided to get a job at Busch Gardens. I started out working in ride operators at Kumba. Then I was part of the ride operating opening team for SheiKra, and while I was doing that, I was going to the University of South Florida, working on a mechanical engineering degree. So I was going full-time at school and working part-time at Busch Gardens. So we always talk about the best way to get your foot in the door, so I really had my foot in the door from the get-go. Once I got further in my degree, I got an internship in the design engineering department at Busch Gardens, doing drafting, just taking care of just all the grunt work, you could say. Then when I graduated from USF, I was able to get a project management role, then work my way up from that point, and now I'm doing the design engineering and creative development for both Busch Gardens and SeaWorld. So, you really can't say anything else about the job. That it's a great job because you're judged by the amounts of laughs, smiles, and screams that you have on the guests enjoying the rides. So it's great.
Recently, and I think Kim alluded to it in the first, we've been speaking to a lot of different groups. There's some colleges that are coming here, and I think, are there some SCAD people here tonight? I guess they were in the first session. And also the Tech Behind the Dreams is another effort that we go through at Disney. And one of the major questions that we get is how did you get into the entertainment business? And my story is, I was a football player. I had hurt myself, and so I needed to take some lightweight classes, if you will. And I thought, well, Theater 101 looks pretty simple, so I'll wander over there. And because I could pick 4-bay platforms up over my head, they said, you get to work in the shop. And that's basically how I got here. And through a lot of different travails, I've worked at a little place called the Flat Rock Playhouse up in North Carolina. I've been at the Coconut Grove Playhouse, which I didn't know is closed. I was disappointed to hear that. Worked on some movies, worked on some different projects, operas, even a casino, but ended up at Disney as a rigger. I was a technician, and because I knew how to drive a forklift one weekend, a gentleman named Mark Hurst, he's kind of known around Orlando as Flounder. There you go, see? He said, come on over, and that's what started it all. And through hanging off of buildings in New York and walking through tunnels in Papenburg, Germany, I've ended up here. So it can be a long and varied path, but again, to the individuals who spoke in the first group, passion drives what you do, and the one thing that I like to continue to tell myself is, I get to come to work. I don't have to come to work. And if you can find that in your life, pursue it.
Part of why I'm on this stage is part of that long and crooked path, Joe Volcano reference there. And there's a real connection for me. I have an entire half a life where I was an art director for a medical publishing company. I did medical illustrations and medical animations. They were very clean and clinical and beautiful and not bloody or gory or anything like that. In 2004, I got the news that I had cancer. And I'm okay, everything is fine, but I had a course of surgeries and some treatments and follow-up, which basically left my left arm kind of inactive for about 6 months. And it was during that time I decided to create a paper model of the Haunted Mansion at Disney World, because I love it, I want one. They're not available, so I ended up creating this website because I was, had a bad arm, and that was all I could do. I wasn't working at the time. Kim Grummel, who I think some of you people may know him. He's a guy, I say, wave to everybody, Kim. Yeah, that's Kim Grummel. Kim Grummel was my art teacher back in 1990. He's very old. Kim had a job at Universal, and he knew that I had done these paper models. I loved Halloween. I loved the Haunted Mansion. And he brought me in to TJ Manorino for an interview, and I brought my Haunted Dimensions models as part of the interview process. And a few months later, I got my first job as a web designer for Halloween Horror Nights. So I did not plan to be here. It was not part of my career path, but it was an amazing, bizarre series of events in my life that went from something really horrible to something that's been really amazing. And again, that's why I appreciate all you guys coming here and helping support this. It's really amazing. So thank you.
Okay, well, 40 years ago, I was a walrus. I worked for SeaWorld, I was the walrus, cuckoo for anybody 40 and older. And little kids swinging off my tusks, it was horrifying. I was as tall as I am now, and I weighed 120 pounds. It was ridiculous. I got a promotion to Pete the Penguin, and worked my way up the food chain to be the corporate head of entertainment, and in 1989 I said, this is bullshit, and I left. Actually, I heard about this company called Landmark Entertainment. I was like, wow, Landmark Entertainment, they're going to Japan, they're going here, and SeaWorld didn't look like it was going anywhere, so left, started Renaissance Entertainment so that I could have the ability to travel overseas. Now SeaWorld is starting to do things overseas, but I guess that was a good decision. Worked for SeaWorld till '89, started this company, and then I found out that I was really good at really nothing. I couldn't really write very well. I couldn't draw. I couldn't really do any lighting design or anything like that, but I was good at telling other people what to do. And so I was like, I gave them excellent direction, like, I want it to look like a rainbow smells. And then they would go and off and they would make me look good. So that's what I did. And I've been doing that ever since, and I've never really looked back. So I've been in a third party, and I don't think anybody would ever hire me as an employee again. There you go.
Open it up to you guys. Questions? Right back there.
Hi, if you could go back in time to when you first started in the entertainment business and ask yourself one bit of advice. So one bit of advice you'd give to yourself, what would it be?
Are you asking me? Let's start over here.
You had the microphone.
Oh my gosh.
About it, Joe.
I'm going to turn that a little bit on its head, because I heard a really great piece of advice that I wish that I had heard just recently, and that was become a triple threat. And that doesn't mean, in musical theater, that means become a great singer, dancer, actor, and that's not what I'm really talking about, though that's completely valid. If you love the arts, you love what you're doing in entertainment anywhere, become an actor, stage manager, marketer. Learn how to play that instrument. Make sure that you know 3 areas in the business so that you have longevity in your chosen career. And I feel that I've done that, but I wish that I had heard that, because I think that would have been really meaningful to me as well.
That's so hard. That's good stuff. I want to say, not just because I don't have an answer, but that's really good, because you find yourself paying too much for headshots at first, and this and that, and then you learn which photographer to go with, or, actor problems. But it's just one of those things that you learn. For me, it's, I don't know, I think my advice that I just live by is just be sweet to everybody, because everyone is talented enough to do it, and it comes down to just being able to be worked with a lot. It's a backstage kind of drama, not being there, not complaining a lot. You're easily replaceable, even if you feel valued. It's depressing, but I think it's a good down-to-earth view. And and what you said was great. Yeah, learning the business side of it because people can take advantage, I'm sure. Patrick Braillard took advantage of me. And I still don't get the vinegar joke.
So my advice would be to take advantage of every opportunity that's presented to you. Whether that's a big project at work you may not be necessarily qualified for, working in a small group, presenting in front of a bunch of people. I mean, you never know where those opportunities will unfold and who you'd meet along the way. So it's kind of like Yes Man, you guys seen that movie? Maybe not to that extent, but make sure you take advantage of those opportunities.
June 27th, 1997, don't go in there. Again, of course, sort of keeping with the theme of take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you and seek opportunities. For me, I would tell myself to learn even more. This industry is expanding. It is reaching out to all kinds of resources. And so just having one focus may limit you. There's an expression that I try to hang on to. It is, in the mind of a beginner, there are many options. In the mind of an expert, there are few. And I try to keep my mind open to new things and experiencing and learning what I can at every step.
I would have told myself, stop being so scared. Scared to take chances, scared to do what you like doing, scared to show people your work. I wasted a lot of time worrying about things that, now at the age I am, it was ridiculous that I was so worried about it. So that's, in my early years, there were so many times where I stopped myself from doing things because I was afraid of what the reception would be. And now I know, I still don't listen to that advice 100%, but enough now that I let myself be who I am and do what I do. So don't be so scared.
My advice to myself, if I look back, would be don't upset anybody. Don't burn bridges. You hear that a lot. Don't burn bridges, but what goes around comes around. All those expressions. I'll give you an example. I hired a kid. She was, it was in 92 or 93 for Renaissance, and I hired her, and I was swaggering around, and I thought I'd mentor her and everything like that. Anyway, then I went off to work on this Hard Rock Park thing, and I kind of shuttered the company for a little while. She went off to work for Universal, ended up being director of the creative studio. Her name is Lisa Ina Smith, if anybody knows her. And then the next thing we did, we came back around, and I said, I'm going to re-up Renaissance again because the Hard Rock thing didn't work out so good. And she said, well, I'll come work for you. And I said, no, I want you to be my partner. In fact, she's probably my boss because she is now, the teacher is now the student, and the student is now the teacher, and what goes around came right back around. And thank goodness I was nice to her because she would kick my butt now. So just remember that as you go forward, because any of these people, even you look at them and go, Kim Brown, oh my God. But he could hire you someday. So there you go.
Next question, right over here.
Thanks. Hello. So you mentioned something like make it look how a rainbow smells. I was
Don't
wondering.
piss me off.
No, I relate to it a lot because one time I was doing sound design and I was told to make the sound of flowers and candy at night. So I was wondering, how do you guys? A lot of times you guys are given the task of doing something that us guests think is impossible. How do you tackle the impossible in your jobs?
Well, that's good. Well, actually, and I'll pass it down the line, I look at that as an opportunity. When someone gives you something really vague like that, snatch it, because at least they're not, micromanaging you and saying, make it blue and then purple. That you have an opportunity to take it from there and go. And yes, maybe they'll take it if it's successful, and they'll go, look what I did, and you'll go, but don't burn any bridges.
A lot of times when I've received direction like that, you end up just having to make the smell of something looks like a couple of times before that person will then actually tell you what they want. And then you'll start honing a real direction. Because once they see what I think a smell looks like and they hate it, then they have to give me a little bit more info. So that's how I go by it.
Sometimes the way I approach it when I'm not getting clear direction is I will deliberately be wrong. I will tell them, well, this is the way we're going to do it, and we're going to make it this way, and that flower is going to do this, and immediately you can see the trigger of, well, no, that's not what I want. I want this, and you can actually get to that decision. And so sometimes you have to introduce something to the equation that the other individual doesn't want, and that helps crystallize what they're looking for.
So I'll be the SeaWorld guy quoting Walt Disney. I think he was the one that said it's kind of fun to do the impossible. From an engineering perspective, I could care less about what things smell or what they look like. But from a technical perspective, I thrive on being able to do things that no one else has done before. So kind of going back to Falcon's Fury, right? I mean, you're building a 335-foot tower in the middle of a hurricane zone, right? So how do you do that? How do you make sure that it's fun and that the guests aren't scared when they're riding it? I mean, there's a lot of engineering that goes behind every ride attraction that you develop. So the key, though, is that you do that engineering so well and so concise, and take your time to make sure that you're crossing your T's, dotting your I's, that the guests don't have to really think about that. They don't have to worry, well, is this harness support my weight, or is this tower going to topple over? I mean, that's the key, is that there's a lot of engineering and a lot of ingenuity behind making those things that you seem impossible possible.
Man, you guys have important jobs. So much. There's no harnesses in my shows. Things that are fresh from the get-go, I guess, acting-wise, to bring up Usher stuff, that was just fun because Michael Roddy handed me the script and just said, do what you wish with it. I think I got it like a week before we shot the stuff on YouTube. People think we know a bunch like a year before, but we're all, it's all top secret until you're in it kind of thing. For acting stuff, I think it's just about keeping an open mind, and if you were to see yourself in the audience, what looks cliche, or trying to stay away from what you would not so much judge, but what would seem like, okay, that's cliche, that's overdone, and just trying to keep stuff fresh. Usher-wise, coming up with a voice, it's a mix of Hannibal Lecter and Richard O'Brien from Shock Treatment, which is the sequel to Rocky Horror. Good evening, moviegoers, to where it's got that sort of deep twang to it. That's my form of answering a hard question because I'm just an actress. Pass it along to this actor.
Oh my goodness. I'm actually going to answer for marketing. Is that okay? No. Okay. So I don't know. Impossible. I love my team that we've assembled. In the marketing department and in guest services, because we like to have a meeting once a month where we dream up the impossible and say, if we had, I think Disney does this too, like if we had all the money in the world and no limitations, what would we do? And we just brainstorm and have a lot of fun, and then the next meeting we come back together and say, okay, so now we have limitations. So what do we do? What about those ideas were really amazing and inspiring, and what get you excited? And how do we then translate that to our work? And I think that's really exciting for us. And then we break it down and say, okay, well then let's go. Let's make the impossible possible.
Third row.
I don't need it. Hi guys. You guys have all been involved in amazingly successful projects. Can you tell us about a project that you worked on that was not amazingly successful? Something that was a complete train wreck and what you learned? You can start with John if you want. And what did you learn from that failure?
Oh no, don't start with me. Okay, sure. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Okay. Not only was this an amazing train wreck, but you can Google me and you'll find out all about it and what everybody thinks about it. And not only that, I lost millions of dollars, so there you go. This was the Hard Rock Park project in South Carolina. A lot of you are familiar with it. Some of you who had a chance to actually get up there and see it. And I'm not, my job was, I was the, what was I? The chief creative officer. There were 3 of us. There was one responsible for operations, one responsible for creative and development, and one responsible for the money. Basically, the 3 of us went and sought the financing, got $400 million, and built this park. And then it was one of the last most heavily leveraged, debt-driven projects that was out there. And then 2008 happened, and it tanked. Who were one of our big banks? Lehman Brothers. And we saw a beautiful thing tank. And unfortunately, we did not have a mothership like a Disney or a Universal over us. So we did not have the opportunity to have somebody just say, no, we will make this successful. Disney has made some projects like Hong Kong and Paris successful by the virtue of the fact that they believe in it so much that they just went for it. Here, it was banks basically that were running the thing. We had a beautiful product. Most everybody that worked on the Hard Rock Park went to go on to work for Harry Potter, most of them. And so you can't say, well, they weren't very good artisans. Yeah, well, check that out. And so it was a beautiful, beautiful thing that just didn't survive. So I'm probably the most cataclysmic, unbelievable failure of all time. But I'm proud of what I did, which is kind of weird. So I'm totally conflicted, and I'm a mess, and that's why I say bad words in front of people.
I'm a creative consultant and freelancer doing all sorts of stuff for a lot of the major theme parks. So I'm really dependent on having good standing with everybody. So I can tell you, Seth, there has never been a mistake made by any major theme parks. Love them all.
And I work for Disney, so I'm not sure if anyone in the audience will know this name, Pia Zadora.
Yeah. Sure.
Do you ever see her show called Too Short to Be a Rockette? You better not be one hand up in the She went on tour, one stop, of a show called Too Short to Be a Rockette. We developed it at the Coconut Grove Playhouse, built it there, but they decided not to produce it. So it had to go on tour across the country to San Diego. One of the features of the set was neon, glass neon. We had to send it across the country and set it back up. It's a 50-foot archway. If anybody knows the San Diego area, it's called the Spreckles Theater. And we sent 3 sets of neon. One set made it. When she got there, she performed her show. She was actually very talented, and or is. I'm sorry, I don't mean to think she's gone, but she has a tremendous voice. She's very talented. She's this tall, and that's hence too short to be a rockette. But it was a catastrophic failure. But we actually got neon up on a set 3,000 miles away from where it was built. So I take away the success of figuring that out. But yeah, that was a disaster.
I'll talk about a near-miss project that I worked on. One of the first major projects that I worked on at Busch Gardens was Sesame Street Safari Fun. A great little kids area that we've got in the park. But the first roller coaster I worked on is a roller coaster called Air Grover. And it's kind of appropriate because that's always kids' first roller coaster, my first roller coaster design, and so it was kind of appropriate. But anyway, If anybody's seen that roller coaster before, we've got, the theme looks like an airplane. And you've got Grover in the front, he's got his thumb up, and it's made out of fiberglass. And in the back is this big tail with another Sesame character that we created. He kind of looks like Joe Camel. He's got a big hair and stuff like that, right? So we work with a ride manufacturer called Zero. And they've done a few different roller coasters for us at our parks across the country, but they've never done this size of a fiberglass model before. So we assembled the whole ride, we got the train, everything looked great, and we were getting ready to start the first test run. And we looked at the camera and we're like, he looks pretty tall. Did you guys ever check the clearance on all the columns for the ride? We're like, well, no, maybe we should look at that again. So we go out through the ride path, and then sure enough, one of the columns in the spiral would definitely have taken the camel's head off if we would have run it. So if you actually go over there, you can see one of our columns has a notch cut out of it. It was either that or give the camel a haircut, so we thought the column notch was a little bit better. So that was a near miss, but make sure you always double check your numbers. Measure twice, cut once.
This is something that happened during Horror Makeup Show. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. Everything's fine, but I was the host and Bill Logan was the artist. If you've seen the show a bunch, he's a the old guy talks like that. We're out going to pick the volunteer, and as I'm walking out to the audience, this lady stands up and starts walking towards the stage. I'm like, oh, maybe, I have astigmatism. She thought I looked at her or whatever. So let's pick her. And I start talking to her, and she pulls out 8 pages of a letter written on Hard Rock Hotel stationery about how she was picked the day before and felt victimized, and that we disrespected her and all that. And I wasn't there the day before, and they looked after the fact at the video, and it was totally the normal show. Thankfully, that was recorded. They didn't record the day that she came up on stage. I wish I could see it because it was like an out-of-body experience. But I was like, oh, okay, trying to make light of it as a host. I'm like, oh, it's all right, ma'am. She's like, don't touch me! I'm like, oh, okay. And Bill came out of the closet physically. And his face just turned white. He was like, oh, because he recognized her from the day before. And she was totally happy in the video from the day before, but her husband, I guess, who spoke English better, convinced her that, because she was a sweet Asian lady, as we sometimes pick there, but that was nerve-wracking, and so we let her read the whole note. They ended up grabbing the stage manager from backstage, so everything was fine, guest services, everything good to go. And we went backstage, and the tech called us on the phone, like, what are we going to do, what are we going to do? I was like, just fade up the mic. And I was like, ladies and gentlemen, please forget this awkward moment of your vacation, and let's act like nothing happened. It's Alex Ross! So many of them came to the show after because they thought this was all planned. So that was the craziest thing that ever happened at Universal to me. So scary.
Wow,
Yeah.
that sounds like fun. Mine was actually the Les Mis flash mob. Almost was a flash mob that didn't happen. We had been talking about it and planning it for a number of months. One of the major first conversations that we had when we started throwing this idea around the room was, should we even be doing this flash mob? Flash mobs are so 2008, right? Like, why are we doing this now? And, we said, well, we don't do musicals. We're Orlando Shakespeare Theater. And if we're going to do this, let's do it now. Because I don't know when we're going to be doing a musical again. That was last year, and now we're doing Spamalot this coming year. So, so no more, we're not doing a flash mob. But we planned, and our artistic director was in on it, and the Sunday before the flash mob, this pop-up performance that we were going to be doing at the Mall at Millennia, we had a rehearsal with the entire cast. We had our sound engineer there to make sure that the levels of the music were good. The mall was awesome because they let us use their sound system. So it actually would come through their speakers rather than us putting like a little boom box down and saying, I hope you can hear it. And that was really awesome. And they were going to they turned off the fountain. They turned off those screens in the middle of the rotunda. We couldn't have asked for a better and more supportive group. It was really, really cool. The problem was that our sound engineer couldn't touch the actual controls. It needed to be done by their tech. The other problem was that we had thought about walkie-talkies, right? We'll have walkie-talkies, everyone will have a walkie-talkie, stage managers will have one, Britt, our sound engineer, will have one, and so that that way they can communicate and make sure the sound is at the right level at all times. What we didn't think about was that sound room where they run everything is soundproof, and the walkie-talkie doesn't work inside that room. And since he can't touch the controls, he had to keep running back and forth, in and out of the room to actually communicate with the rest of us who are out in the rotunda. Fine, rehearsal went flawlessly, it was beautiful, we did it like 5 times without a hitch. The day of, we had a different tech that was running the sound. And again, Britt's not allowed to work the sound machine, and I'm sitting there with Matt Palm, the arts critic for the Orlando Sentinel, and he is there with a crew, and there's other TV crews hanging out, and we have 4 video cameras ready to capture the entire magical moment for everyone, and 12 o'clock hits, the sound, the rotunda screens go off, the fountain goes off, the music starts, and no one can hear it, including our Jean Valjean, who has to start the song. So what you don't see on the tape is that there is a false start. That he walked out and he started 16 counts late. And I'm sitting next to Matt, and no joke, you hear me, shit. And I ran, and I ran to Jim Helsinger, our artistic director, I was like, we have to start this over, we have to start this over. I mean, I probably looked like a maniacal crazy person. But all I could think of was, we have to get this tape, right? Like, the Mala Millennia is one thing, and there's 500 people in this rotunda that have now seen something, so we have a captive audience, and they're important, but the tape is what we care about. We want to go viral, we're ready to go viral. And we started it over, and it was beautiful. But if you actually watch the tape, Michael Hunsacker, who was our Jean Valjean, kind of does a, one day more, he's like, and here we are again, and it's very funny. So that was my almost miss.
If you can, I'd love to hear 3 of your favorite projects, entertainment projects that might not be around anymore. Like, for example, my top 3 would be the original Journey into Imagination, the Epcot, the Adventurers Club at Treasure Island, and the Hard Rock theme park. So, of yours, which one would they be?
Can we just yell out instead of
Yeah.
Mr. Toad. 20,000 Leagues.
Maelstrom.
20,000 as well.
I'd say that's number 1 for me.
Horizons at Epcot. Smell. Goodness. No, it's at Soarin' Imagination.
It's at Soarin'.
It's Captain EO now, I think. Just kidding. What about you, Ray Keim?
I already said Mr. Toad.
He wasn't paying attention.
Sorry, he always ignores me. What?
The question right back there.
Hey guys, for those of you who've been involved in theater in the past, what role or what importance do you feel that acting and that the human element adds to the themed environments that to make it more than just pretty architecture? Like, I'd be interested to hear on the human element that is added into these lands to make them so special, what your thought is about that.
I do have the microphone. Oh gosh, in theater. I think that, the human element from the performers to the technicians behind stage, that's what makes it exciting and keeps it, we were talking about keeping things fresh earlier. Every single performance, like Josh and his Woman with the Letter, that could only happen in a live format. That would never happen. Filmed media is lovely and wonderful, and that again is still, real humans performing, but it's a moment. in time and it's captured forever, whereas this is a moment that every single time it's a little bit different, which I love about it, and it's also a little scary. Think about it.
It's hard. It's hard, yeah, especially with doing things over and over, like the assembly line that theme park shows and such can be. And you get people that come back, and you get the repeat guests, which is sweet, and they know the jokes in the show, the things, horror makeup to go back to. I mean, that's the one that's supposed to seem like the first time. It's all supposed to seem like the first time, but there's mistakes, like the host says playtex instead of latex. And to make that not contrived sounding each time, it's a challenge, because you'll see a video of yourself and go, oh gosh, I suck. And then you read the YouTube comments, and that doesn't help. The sweet ones just blend in because the other ones stand out. But I think it's just a matter of not making it seem recorded, because a lot of people get satisfied with the fact that some people just clap, not over anything, but it doesn't make the audience dumb by any means, but there's other people who are savvier, if that's a word, that will pick up on the nuances. So hopefully that's done a lot if we're doing our job right, if that answers the question at all. How'd you do the spieling at Kumba, the ride announcement? How'd you make it fresh? Without
Usually we do it like air traffic controllers or like policemen are just like go like this, and you can't really hear what's going on.
Never really tried it, exactly.
Keeping it fresh wasn't a high priority for us.
That's why we invented audio animatronics. And one of the things that the human element brings is that connection with the audience. We get the opportunity to interact with the guests. We get to reach down and hold the hand of a child who's afraid to be there and comfort and make that experience a memorable one for them that they'll carry for the rest of their lives. And so that human element, that human contact, that is something I hope we never lose.
For people who don't know, that was Nick Collins, who was a senior scenic designer at Universal Art Design. Been doing art for 2 years. And I can say, not as an actor, but as an artist and as a fan going to the show, the talent is what brings it to life. The sets are beautiful and amazing, but what really makes it memorable is how an actor will touch you or scare you or make you laugh. And then I have to say, Josh Weiger, you are one of my favorite. I'm shy. He needs a man in a green screen outfit following him around like with his favorite hair.
What was the question again? It was how the human or
instead of just walking the park and just looking at architecture,
yeah.
Your background as an entertainment director, manager, like the human element of
yeah.
actors, a lot of people also interact.
Yeah. Well, if I had my way, I'd have a human element in everything, because that's what we are. We are humans, believe it or not, and we tend to have this need to gather. That's why I don't think theater or movie theaters or live theater will ever go away, because we have this innate bred into us over hundreds of thousands of years. The need to gather, and we can connect. We tried this experiment where we did a multimedia spectacular, and it was spectacular. It was wonderful. And then we did the experiment of we took a conductor. It was just a dude, and he went up on the podium, and he went up and he conducted all of the same thing that we punched and run before, and the applause swelled huge. Why? Because they had somebody to vent, somebody to relate to. It wasn't just a bunch of technical stuff. If it's a ride, the show is the people that are on the ride. If the ride's just going, it's interesting for a little bit, but it's those people that are screaming and peeing their pants and everything. That's what I want to see, and the live element with horror nights or with a show, even if it's something that is static, but your host or hostess is part of that, that's what they remember. they remember that because they're humans, and that's what it's all about. And if I could, with simulator rides, like with Star Tours, if I could, I'd put a live operator in front of the screen in every one of them, and I think everybody would just be that more engaged with it. It's a little bit of a financial issue, but and I don't know how many people would, take that job. Okay, I'm going on again, right? But point taken. You know what I mean? Okay.
Question right up there.
Thank you. Earlier you gave the advice to be fearless, not to fear, and to take every opportunity. Can you tell us about a time in your career where you feared something, but you were able to go out and take that opportunity, and the outcome of it, how it was greater than you had imagined?
Me? I'll do a real quickie. I was really scared of an audition that I did. I auditioned to be an announcer for a show at SeaWorld, and I was scared to death, but I was also a little cocky, and I got the job. Then I found out that 3 other guys had quit, and that's why they called me. So, but I was scared, but I went ahead and did it anyway because, as Woody Allen says or whatever, half of it is just showing up, and if you've got the balls to do it, which most of you women do, step out there and do it, and it really makes a difference. And what's anybody going to say, So that's the big thing for me.
For me, one of those moments was actually coming down here, making a commitment to work in this industry. I have a wife and 2 children in Pennsylvania. I lived down here for the last 3 years to make this career work. I was the one saying, we can't do it, we can't afford it, and my wife was the one, how do I think about it? Maybe she just wanted me in Florida. But we took the chance, and I got to do amazing things, and knock on wood, it's working out. But that was definitely one of the biggest, even as a 40-something-year-old at the time, it was like going to college for the first time. I was moving to a new city, working with new people in an industry that I didn't work in before, and I'm on a panel with these amazing people and you amazing people. So that's my example.
Mine is sort of a fork in the road story. I had just finished a project in Kansas City. There were some Disney people there working on the project, and it was time to go. And the contract was over, and I was driving back. I had an offer in North Carolina to return to the Flat Rock Playhouse, and I also had a text, if you will, I guess back then it was a pager, to come down to Orlando. And there's a point as you're driving back where you can turn in Atlanta. You can turn north or you can turn south. And I turned south. And so it's that moment when you decide, let's try something new. And you take that risk.
In my job, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, right? So sometimes I'm working on an animal habitat or a new zoological facility, or the next day I'd be working on a roller coaster. So I'm never really working on the same project twice. The first project or one of the early projects that I was given fresh out of college was to design a water play area in the park. So I was given this task. I was the only one. They said, hey, we've got a 1,600 square foot facility that we need you to design. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And they're like, well, figure it out. So I'm like, yeah, it's kind of a pretty big, daunting task, right? Like, how do you design the filtration systems? How do you figure out the pumps? How do you determine what play elements are a lot of fun? I don't have any kids at the time, so I have to figure out, what do kids really like? So do you have to start going interviewing kids or trying to figure out, what do they like what's the favorite elements? Which, by the way, the favorite elements for kids usually is just sitting on a bubbler, just coming up. That's it. And they'll be entertained for the entire day, just sitting on water. So so you're given this big daunting task, right? So you've got to reach out to the right people and do your own research and determine, how do you attack this seemingly daunting task? It's kind of like, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And from an engineering perspective, that's kind of the way you have to attack it. You attack it piece by piece. And overall, it's a great attraction. You feel a lot of pride by the time you're done with it, right? Working on a project from the very inception to the final days when the kids are playing on it, it makes it pretty rewarding.
Probably one of the scarier things in retrospect seems like, oh, it's just a choice, an option, but I didn't know if it would make or break my chance at getting into Universal. But the first thing I ever did at Universal, I wanted to be the Grinch, and I moved back from college in New York and went to American Musical and Dramatics Academy and came back, and it was like a week after the audition. I'm like, oh, I want it so bad. So I'm like, what if I call Lyle Moon, the show director, my favorite Canadian, and I threatened him as the Grinch over the phone to cast me because of all these imposters. And I'm like, oh man, he doesn't even know me yet. And I did it anyway. And I got Poseidon's Fury. No Grinch. That happened later, thankfully, but yeah, a little scary. I'll take over Canada.
Recorded that, and he still plays it occasionally.
Nowadays, I'd have the iPhone by me and like record it.
You could send him a video of it, actually.
We're gonna do it. Paint myself green.
Oh.
Get in my underwear.
Wow.
Do it on this set.
Yeah, that's smart. That's really smart. We could climb in and out a little bit. Mine. So I said earlier, I'm from Seattle, and I had been out there, went to college in Seattle with my husband. Both of us were theater majors, and we lived out there about 3 years, got married, started our life out there, and I don't know, I guess I was having like a quarter life crisis or something, so I said I need a change. And I had actually been in the college program in '99, and I knew that I liked Orlando. So I went to the Southeastern Theater Conference. It's a theater conference where a lot of undergrads and grad students who are interested in performing, stage management, and something in the arts can audition for 300 to 500 producers right there. It's a big paddle call. You have 90 seconds to show them what you can do. I'd never done anything like that, so I auditioned there. And the next day, got a call from Orlando Shakespeare Theater offering me the acting, marketing, education internship. And I actually took it on the phone right there. I said, yes, I will go. And then I called my husband and said, hey, so we're moving. And he said, awesome, let's go. But that, I think, was the biggest, the kind of the pivotal point, because I knew that I wanted to do something else. I was acting, I was marketing out there, I was making a career for myself in Seattle, and it's a great city for the arts. If you guys have been there, it's just amazing, but I wanted to do something else, and I wanted to be someone else. And we came out here, I thought we'd be out here for a year, and both of us got jobs. He actually started up at Disney, down at Disney, and they offered me a job as the marketing manager at Orlando Shakespeare Theater the next year, and we said, well, I guess we'll just stay until the work dries up, and it hasn't dried up, so we're still here.